Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here and to do a presentation of OmniCam. You saw this great camera, and also in my presentation I would like to talk about the OmniCam. And this is, let's say, the topics of my presentation here. I would like to talk a little bit about the history. Yeah, now it's working. About the history of the CEREC camera, the OmniCam basis, then the workflow with the OmniCam, clinical cases. That's what you are interested in, how this is working in the clinics with the patients. And then we still have the BlueCam. The BlueCam is still a very good camera, and the BlueCam will stay on market. And I would like to show you, let's say, the differences between both systems. And then finally, I would like to talk about further developments we can do with the OmniCam system. So this is the very first optical setup Marco Brandestini did in the early 80s. This is a bench here. He had a light source and some lenses, and here you see the tooth with a cavity, and this was the result. This is one of the very first optical impression did with an intraoral camera. And this is the result. This was the very first intraoral camera for 3D measurement. This was the CEREC prototype camera, and this was also used in the CEREC 1 system. And then the Siemens Dental company came into the market, or came into this group, and Werner Mörmann and Marco Brandestini, they did a license and cooperation contract with this Siemens Dental company, and then the Siemens Dental company and then the Sirona Dental company, they did several developments. They started with CEREC 1, CEREC 2, and so on. And the second generation of camera, the so-called RedCam camera, although we can't see any measuring pattern because this is an infrared light source, we can't see it with our eyes. We had this red light camera with the CEREC 2 system, and in the beginning with the CEREC 3 system from 95 to 2008. In 2008, 2009, the BlueCam camera was introduced by the Sirona company. And what did they change? They changed the light source. Instead of this infrared light source, they were using, or they are still using, a blue light LED source for a better resolution when we are measuring our cavities. But we have to powder with both systems, and this was also always an aspect. We always wanted to have a powder-free camera. And several years ago, the development department of the Sirona company, they started to think about, is it possible to create a powder-free camera? And here you see the team of the R&D division of the so-called optical 3D metrology, and the head is Dr. Frank Thiel. You see here, Dr. Frank Thiel, he's the head of this department, and they started several years ago with the design and with the basic development of the OmniCam we see today. And here you can see how they are working on such a prototype camera. This was summer 2010, and the very first use of a prototype OmniCam of a dentist was done by Werner Mörmann. You can see it here. This was in autumn 2010, and he was the first dentist using the OmniCam camera here with this dummy. And again, you see part of this division of Dr. Frank Thiel. You know Dr. Pfeiffer, the head of the CEREC department, and Dr. Adamson, Dr. Kocherscheid, and Dr. Popilka, one of the teams of the camera development. And then I had the chance to try out the very first prototype of the OmniCam. This was in February last year, and the team of Dr. Thiel came to CEREC, and we spent 2 days to work with the OmniCam, and I tried it out with my colleague Alexis here, and we had Dr. Kocherscheid as a patient, and I did my very first scans with the OmniCam prototype in the 21st, and in 22nd of these 2 days we had a patient. I did a preparation, and you see a small movie of this event of these 2 days, and it's in German, so I translated it here into English. I did a crown preparation with a patient. It was a partial crown preparation, and here you see this is the very first scanning without any powdering of the preparation or the adjacent teeth. powder-free scanning with the OmniCam prototype. And as you can see here, Dr. Adamson had to look and had to work with the software because it was a very early type of the software recording this new camera. And this is the patient. You see here the preparation here. And two co-workers of mine, two young ladies, they complained about the size and the weight of this prototype. And so Dr. Thiel, he had to go back with his team and they had to make the camera smaller and lighter. And the result you see today, very light and a very handy camera. It was a very nice 2 days spending with the development team, Reinhard Pieper, also the product manager of the CEREC in Complete. The very first OmniCam restoration was placed by Dr. Steinbrenner. He's a dentist in Bensheim. He's not in the factory, but he's in Bensheim town. He's also one of the very first beta testers of the OmniCam. And he did the very first OmniCam restoration. It was a molar partial crown, and this was the patient, Dr. Thiel. And you can ask him in lunch break, for example, how does it feel to bite on an OmniCam restoration? Again, BlueCam versus OmniCam. BlueCam is still a very good camera. It will stay on market. What are the differences? We have to know that the handling is different. So let's start with the powdering. We need, for the BlueCam, we need the powdering, because the optical properties of enamel, ceramic, alloy, and amalgam are completely different. And with this technology, with the BlueCam camera, it's not possible to scan without this coating. So you know we need this coating, and then we can do the scanning. Also, the scanning process is different. As you can see here, we are doing single images, and all these single images are stitched together by the software. You can see it here. First optical impression. Second optical impression. Both optical impressions are stick together. We can do angulated, we can do rotated images in order to get more information of the area, for example, under the equator. And then after doing, let's say, several optical impressions, minimum one optical impression, better is 5 or 6 or 7 optical impressions, a 3D model is calculated by the software. You can see it here, the preview, and then the calculation of the 3D model. And you're used to this situation, but it's monochromatic, there's no color. And now we have the OmniCam. And you can see the OmniCam in action, no powdering, no coating here. You see how the 3D model is built up, you see the preview, and that's important. You have to move around the camera, around the preparation, and around the adjacent teeth. And now you can see how the data are coming to our preview here. And that's important, especially for BlueCam users. You have to learn it. You have to move around. It's always necessary to have a 90-degree access or angle to the surface you would like to scan. So as you can see it here, you have to move around the camera. But that's very easy because the tip of the camera is very small and handy. So you can do this even in the posterior region, in the area of the last molar, for example. Let's have a closer look again. The same, bigger magnification. You see the preview is built up. Data are coming here. But we have no data here in this moment, so we have to turn around the camera in order to get data here in this area, or in order to get data at the lingual, so we have to move around the camera to the lingual, and that's new. You have to know that. And then the preview is generated, as you can see here, and we have nice data around our preparation. But if we have a closer look to the distal here or to the proximal here, data are missing. But that's not a problem. We can go back and rescan this area. So again, we can activate the camera, and we can do additional scans, as you can see here. And now we are going very close with our camera to the distal of this unprepared tooth here, and now data are coming. We are gaining data here in the distal area of this first molar and in the distal area of this third molar. And this is the result. The preview, very nice preview. Now we have data all around the preparation. We have data around the adjacent teeth, also the gingiva, and now the 3D model is calculated as you are used to this situation. Now you can see the 3D model, perfect 3D model. Looks the same like this image on the left side here. If you have an antagonist with ceramic, this is very critical. It's a very translucent ceramic. It's no problem with the blue cam camera, as you can see here. Although it's very transparent ceramic, highly polished, it's no problem to make a 3D model. So it's very easy to scan your antagonist if you have a ceramic restoration or a composite restoration. The reality here and the 3D model of this very transparent restoration. So let's compare again the OmniCam with the blue cam. So with the blue cam, you know we need the powdering, we need this coating. You know all the different materials we have on the market, how to create this powder coating. With the OmniCam, it's powder-free, no powder, but we need a dry surface. You have to blow out the saliva, we need a dry surface. We have no color with blue cam, and we have natural color. Maybe in future we can also do a color determination with our OmniCam camera. With the OmniCam, we are doing 18 images per second. It's like a movie. With the blue cam camera, we are doing at least one image and then additional images to create a 3D model plus the rotated images if you would like to do them. There is no shake sensitivity with the OmniCam, and with the blue cam we have a certain shake sensitivity. If you are shaking, we can't do good optical impressions. And both cameras we can use for the Connect and the in-lab software as well. So again, the blue cam is comparable to a photo camera. We are doing a photo and we are checking our image or our photo. The OmniCam camera is like a video camera. So many of single images are stitched together and we have like a small movie. So this is the basic difference between the OptiCam and the blue cam camera. Machining is the same for both. You can use the MCXL or your in-lab machining unit, or you can also use your small machining unit in order to machine your restoration, and this is a result of a crown directly after the machining process, for example. Let's have a closer look to some patient cases, to our first clinical experiences. Let's have a closer look to this first upper molar here. There was a cusp fracture and the margins were subgingival. So I had to remove every old filling material, and this is the restoration, the subgingival preparation for this partial crown. And in this area I had to do gingivectomy because the margins were subgingival. And powdering such a situation, when it's bleeding, it's not very good, because not very easy, because this dry powder attracts blood, attracts saliva and moisture, and then it's critical to do the scanning process. It was no problem to use the OmniCam situation here. You see also the shake, no problem if you are shaking, no problem. You are having a very nice build-up of your 3D preview, scanning process of the mesial part of the step margin, the distal part. It's important to scan around these sharp prepared areas of this remaining enamel, for example. This is the first step, scanning the preparation. The second step, scanning the antagonist, and then finally scanning the buccal bite. Then all of these three single parts are stitched together by the software, and then we can go ahead with the design mode. And here you see a very nice determination or separation of the margin. And now we have the additional control by the colors. You see there is enamel, there is dentin, you can see it now. And now it's much easier to design the margin. We have the automatic margin detector, you saw it before in Sam's video. But in the area where the gingiva is quite close, this margin finder, it doesn't work 100% perfect. So we have the optical feedback here, and we can design and we can draw our margins very perfectly. The same biogeneric software, the proposal done by our 4.0 software. Then we can machine the restoration. This is the try-in. We machined it. We used the Mark II ceramic for this case here. And then we place the restoration. Adhesive placement is very important, so we used the Syntac system together with the Tetric, and this is directly after the polishing procedure, so the gingiva is still inflamed, and the situation after the gingivectomy. Second case, last molar here. It's not, with BlueCam, sometimes difficult to access to this area. With the OmniCam, no problem. So I have the preparation here, and we have a very famous patient of this cavity. This is Werner Mörmann, and I did some weeks ago this restoration. You see the proposal here, and then I did the machining, and here at this point some greetings from Werner to all of you. And in this case I used the Lava Ultimate, the composite block material. This is after the placement and after polishing the surface. And then I did a small impression to do a SEM analysis, and Werner sent me the images yesterday, and then I built it in my presentation. And if we have a closer look to this area here, we see we have a very nice sealing of our margin. The gap size is ranging from about 5 to 10 microns in this area to up to 40 to 50 microns. So you can see we can achieve very nice fitting restorations with our OmniCam system. An additional case, very difficult, let's say, insufficient filling, again, subgingival margin. If you have a closer look to the old filling here, there's the level of the gingiva here, there's the bone. I had to replace, I had to remove all the insufficient filling materials, and this is the result. Again, I had to use gingivectomy in order to show, in order to isolate the margin. It's not very aesthetic case, but this is the daily routine. This is our reality. And we had some minor bleedings here, but nevertheless, I was able to scan the situation with the OmniCam camera. Again, back to the tooth is still alive. We have this big defect here at the distal. We have the furcation here, we have the bone here. Very critical situation. The image done with the SLR camera and the image done with the OmniCam camera. It's nearly the same. And we have the additional information about, because of the colors, so it's very easy to design and to find out the margins for this partial crown or for this crown here in this case. Proposal by the software here, as you can see. And after the machining process, in this case I used the Vita Trilux Forte material. The restoration, I did the try-in. Here you see again the problem around the distopalatal area because it was going very deep, and the buccal aspect during the try-in of the crown, and you see we have a very nice fit of this crown. Perfect fit. Data generated by the OmniCam, machined by the MCXL with the Vita material. Then I placed this restoration. In this case, I didn't use the Tetric material because it's very hard to remove the excess material here at the distal of this tooth. So it's easier in such a case to use the multilink material. Multilink in combination with the primer A and B. And this is directly after placement and after polishing the ceramic surface. Another view, and this is after a healing period of 1 to 2 weeks. And a closer look, and I made a small video to see the restoration. You see the palatal side, very nice healing of the gingiva at the distal after this gingivectomy. So the final result of this case done with the OmniCam camera. Another case, just an inlay case. Insufficient filling in this area and missing proximal contact. I had to remove all the old filling material. You see just an MOD cavity, very simple, supragingival. Then I did the scanning of the preparation, the scanning of the antagonist and the buccal bite situation. Again, we have very nice colors of our 3D model. Then the margin finder, margin detection very easy here, and biogeneric software, machining, try-in of the inlay restoration, and in this case again, placement of the CEREC inlay using the tetric material. You can polish the restoration to a very high luster, very shiny. Another case, a crown case, so this endodontically treated tooth here, and there was an indication for a crown. So again, I used in this case the OmniCam. This is after the preparation, easy preparation in this kind, supragingival. It's not a butt margin here, it's more a chamfer preparation, but that's as well is easy for the OmniCam camera. The 3D model generated by the software here. You see the build-up material and the 3D model of the antagonist. You see the image of the buccal bite again. Then all these three parts are stitched together by the software. We have our 3D model, and then we can go ahead with the 3D design of our crown. And here you can see the biogeneric software is working very well. Albert Mehl will talk about the biogeneric software in detail on Saturday in his presentation. Here you see we have a very nice proposal. Just some minor corrections have to be done. We have all these tools with the 4.0 software in order to make these minor corrections with the shape of our crown. And then we can machine our restoration. And again, we can do the try-in. In this case, I used the multi-block, the Empress Cut multi-block by the Ivoclar company. And again, a very nice fit of our crown margin in relation to our preparation. Then we can place the restoration, again, placed with multi-link and primer A and B, and this is after the polishing procedure of our ceramic surface. And as the previous presenters are already mentioned, we can use a so-called two-dimensional video tool. Normally, when we are scanning our cavities, we are doing this with this tool, measure in 3D to get the information, the 3D information to design a workpiece. But we can also use our OmniCam camera in this two-dimensional video mode for patient communication. So we can switch from measure 3D to video 2D, two-dimensional, and then we can do a small video clip. For example, we can start the video with clicking on this red button, and then we can show the patient, for example, if there is an information or if there is calculus, and we can use it as a patient communication tool. And we can also have a closer look to our restorations. This is the crown you saw before after the polishing procedure, and this is a small video of this crown in order to check if there is still excess material in the margin area. There's no excess material, everything is fine and highly polished, and we can send home the patient. Another case, this was the problem. The patient complained about the conical tooth here, about the shape. He has some additional problems. He should clean his teeth more carefully. But it was his main problem here to get a bigger tooth. Okay? And so the solution was a veneer. And in this case, or in this situation, I said I went for a prepless veneer because we had a very healthy surface, no caries, no fillings. And so I did the scan of this tooth with the OmniCam camera and designed a prepless veneer. And here you see the proposal of this prepless veneer, and you know when we are going for the prepless procedure, we have very, very thin margins and very thin material thickness, especially in this area here. And when we are machining with ceramic, then it can happen that we have chipping in this area. So for this case, I used the Lava Ultimate material. And the Lava Ultimate material, it's a composite material, and it's perfect. You can machine it perfect. And you see, if you have a closer look to all these margins, there's no chipping. We have a very precise, very sharp angles of such a prepless veneer. So after the machining process, I removed it from the sprue, and I did the try-in of the veneer. And as you can see, again, we have a very nice fit of this restoration. slightly overextended in this area here, and I reduced it after the placement. And for the color, I used the A3, the high translucent material of the Lauda Ultimate. And this is after placing the restoration, and again I used the VarioLink material here, and after polishing the surface, and here a close-up of this chairside manufactured veneer using the OmniCam camera. Again, BlueCam versus the OmniCam. What is the difference? What can we do? So we can do inlays, we can do onlays, partial crowns, crowns. You see the same here on the list of the for the BlueCam restorations. We can also do the multiple restorations. We have basically the same software. It's based on the 4.0 software. We can do a temporary bridge with both camera systems, and we can do full arch. Full arch is possible. It's possible with the BlueCam. But you can imagine powdering a complete arch, lower jaw or upper jaw is not that easy. We can do it with the camera. The camera is that precise. The camera can calculate or can record a complete arch, and the software can calculate a 3D model. But it's much more comfortable using the OmniCam camera because no powdering is needed. So you can go around the complete dental arch in order to scan a complete arch. And you saw a complete arch scanned with the OmniCam in Sam's presentation, and also Albert Mehl will show a case where we see a complete arch done with the OmniCam camera. What about multiple cases? Yes, we can do multiple cases. And this case is about 2 years old, and I didn't have the OmniCam to that time. So I had to use the BlueCam. But this is, in my opinion, this is an OmniCam case because this patient needed almost on every tooth restoration. What happened? We had severe erosions and abrasions. We had loss of that dimension because the patient was working very hard with his teeth, and he was quite young. He was 35. So we had to reconstruct the occlusal surfaces, and we had to elevate the bite. And it's easy to do the preparations and to use the OmniCam, scanning the complete arch in one, let's say, in one workflow. But as I mentioned before, I had to do the treatment in several segments because I just had the BlueCam camera. So I had to start with the lower posterior on the right side, on the left side, then the lower anterior, then the upper anterior. This was all done at the chair side. No model was created, no dental technician was used. But I think it would be easier to have the OmniCam in such a case. So you see the cat design of the restorations in the 4th quadrant. You see the buccal bite. You see, after elevating the bite, you see the cat design of the 3rd quadrant here. And then after the machining of the Emax materials, I made a try-in. I just used tetric flow to place them temporarily. The 3rd quadrant here, the 4th quadrant, just to check the height it's correct, if there is no, if you have the right bite on the left and on the right side. And then I did the staining and the glazing and crystallization of the blue glass material, of the Emax material. And then I placed these restorations in the posterior. After placing the restorations, you can see here, the premolar restorations are already placed. I did the preparation for the anterior veneer preparation, full crown preparations. And you can see here, the teeth are still vital. The design of the lower anterior veneers and full crowns again. You see the situation from the anterior and the amount of the elevation of the bite. Then placing the restoration in the lower anterior and doing the preparation and the cat design of the anterior in the maxilla, then try-in of the restorations in order to check the length and the shape of the restorations. There's no veneering, this is just bulk material, just staining and glazing. And this is the final result after placing all these restorations using, again, Syntac Heliobond material and the VarioLink material. So we did the anterior crowns in the maxilla, anterior crowns in the lower jaw, and the posterior on both sides with the BlueCam camera. A closer look to the anterior crowns here, on the right side, on the left side. No layering, just staining and glazing, and the complete arch done with the Emax material. Not in one appointment, in several segments, but at the chair side. The third quadrant, and finally the fourth quadrant after bonding these restorations to the preparations. So we built up the loss of tooth substance and we did the elevation of the bite using the CEREC technology. Further developments with OmniCam. Not today, but in the next, let's say, month, we also can use the OmniCam and the software for a prosthetic planning, for implant restorations, or for implant planning. And I think you're all familiar with the CEREC meets Galileo's integration. Maybe a better word would be CEREC meets Galaxis, because today we have Galileo's and the XG 3D. And so we can use our CEREC software, and in future we will use our OmniCam camera in order to do a virtual prosthetic planning here. There are no preparations, there are no implants or abutments in this situation here, but we can do a prosthetic planning using our CEREC software in order to determine the final result of our implant restorations. And then we can go ahead and we can superimpose both sets of data, the data created by the cone beam system and the data created by the CEREC software. And this helps us because of that we are transferring the prosthetic planning into the cone beam CT image, and now we can go ahead and we can do a proper implant planning. And as you can see here, we can do a prosthetically driven implant planning. Very nice position of our implant according to the prosthetic planning. And this prosthetic planning was done with the CEREC software based on a scan with, in this case, with a blue cam, but in future we can use the OmniCam. Skiing can be dangerous, you can imagine. And this happened to our next patient. He had an accident during skiing, and this was the result. He lost his upper anterior teeth. Not a very nice situation. And this was an indication for implant restorations, because he doesn't want to have a removable prosthesis. So it's not that easy to, let's say, to solve such a case. We need a proper implant planning, we need a proper prosthetic planning, and after a healing period, after removing the broken teeth, after a healing period of about 6 to 8 weeks, we did the cone beam CT in order to check out how much bone is available for implant restorations. And then we used the OmniCam camera in order to make an intraoral scan in order to make the prosthetic planning. So you see the scan of the edentulous area in the anterior here. You see the canines, you see the premolars, and you see the texture and the color of the gingiva. And then I did the virtual prosthetic planning. So I designed 4 anterior crowns. You can see them here on the model. Here, this is the virtual prosthetic planning, and this helps us to do the final implant procedure, to do the final implant planning and implant treatment. So you know the CEREC meets Galileo's integration. We have both sets of data shown in this window here. So on the left side, you see the 3D model created with the OmniCam. This is a better version, so it's a monochromatic situation. And on the right side, we have the cone beam data. And now we have to place so-called landmarks on the same teeth, on the canine, on both sets of data. And then the matching process or the registration process is done completely automatically by the software, by the Galaxis software. And as you can see here, we have a very nice match of both sets of data. We have a perfect match. And now we can go ahead and we can do our implant planning. And in this case, I started here with planning 4 implants in the anterior. So we have 2 possibilities to plan 4 implants and then later on to place 4 implant crowns, or we can go for 2 implants and then create an implant-supported bridge. And then you can see here a closer look of the prosthetically driven implant planning. But in this case, I selected, or I went for the 2 implant case, so I just placed 2 implants because in order to get a better aesthetical outcome of the situation. So you see the 2 planned implants and you see the prosthetic planning. Additionally, you see the morphology of the gingiva here, and again, the situation from the incisal aspect. And then for this case, I needed a surgical guide, and I went to the CEREC company and I ordered a so-called OptiGuide. And in order to be free, I just ordered for 4 implants, and then during the surgery, I had the possibility to select on which situation I would like to place the implant. And also this kind of surgical guide is very interesting because the inner part, it's completely machined from a big CAD/CAM system, and the result of this very nice fit is not a model or a plaster model, it's a scan with a CEREC camera. So the 3D model created by the CEREC camera, by the CEREC software, is the basic, or this is basis for the designing of this completely machined surgical guide you can see here. A closer look, you can combine this surgical guide with the major brands of completely guided implantology. For example, there's the Navigator system of the Biomed 3i company. So when you are ordering this surgical guide, you have to select if you would like to do it completely guided and which system you would like to use. So I ordered the Navigator system, and the CEREC company, they placed these original sleeves for the completely guided Navigator system. And then I had the chance to do the implant surgery completely guided with the Navigator and this OptiGuide surgical guide based on the CEREC scan used the OmniCam. And the final result, also the implant can be placed through this sleeve, and this is the final result after placing these 2 implants completely guided. And now we have to wait. I had to do a build-up. You see the build-up material. Now we have to wait for the healing, and then I can proceed with restoring these 2 implants with an implant-supported bridge. And the last slide I would like to show, also we will have the possibility to scan bodies. In the moment we just can scan preparations, but in future this is one patient situation. We can also use an intraoral scan body. We can place the scan body intraorally. There will be scan bodies for intraoral use in the future, and then again we can use our OmniCam to scan this scan body in order to find out where the implant is located. So this was the last slide about teeth, and I would like to show finally some images for relaxing your eyes, from some impressions from Europe. This is the harbor of Göteborg in Sweden, for example. Here you can see Rome, and in the next slide we have Vienna. You have to go to Vienna, very nice city. So some greetings, some impressions from, let's say, good old Europe. Modena in Italy, and somewhere in Bavaria here, winter, and in the summer in the Italian Alps, and an art museum in Munich, for example. Finally, last but not least, Switzerland, the Canton Graubünden here in autumn. Sunset in CEREC, and rainbow in CEREC, and there is one image missing. Okay, fine. And finally, a sunset in CEREC again, and thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.